Okay, let's dive into a fascinating world today, one where the lines between, well, family and community seem incredibly close.
We're exploring something truly unique, drawing from this source on the essence of Uyghur neighborly culture. It really outlines some distinctive characteristics.
Yeah, and the source kicks off with this really powerful idea, doesn't it? That for Uyghurs, a neighbor can be as close as, maybe even closer than, a blood relative. That just makes you stop and think.
It's a profound starting point, absolutely. So, our mission here is to sort of unpack this source material together, understand the core things that build this culture, and maybe see why these connections are so, deeply woven into daily life.
And it feels like the whole philosophy is kind of captured in this central proverb the source mentions right away. A nearby neighbor is better than a distant relative.
Hmm, that says so much. It speaks directly to the value they place on immediate, accessible support. It's not just about living next door. It's about a relationship built on real trust and mutual reliance.
Okay, so let's dig into what makes that proverb actually work in practice. The source grounds it in everyday reality, right? It points out that, well, nobody has everything they need all the time. Unexpected stuff pops up.
Exactly. The source makes it really clear. It doesn't matter how well off you are, you're going to have moments where you need something you don't have. And in this culture, the default is just you go to your neighbor. Simple as that.
And there's this emphasis on the lack of hesitation,
Yeah.
or discomfort on either side. You ask, they give. There's no like mental calculation or worry about paying it back right then. It's just seamless based on this inherent trust.
And this practical reliance, it seems to naturally flow into deeper kinds of support. The source highlights how neighbors act as this emotional anchor
Right. When you're feeling down or facing some kind of misfortune, where do you
to
turn?
your neighbor.
Yeah.
You visit them, you talk, you share what's weighing on you. It's framed as a fundamental way to get comfort, to lighten your heart.
The source even calls this sharing, this support, a powerful medicine against stress and, well, unstable moods. It acknowledges life's difficulties, maybe even friction at home sometimes.
And positions the neighbor's warmth as this vital counterpoint. It reminds me of another saying that really resonates here. Do not laugh when your neighbor is crying. It captures that empathy, that willingness to share the burden.
Okay, and here's where the level of trust gets pretty striking. In trusting neighbors with children, the source talks about parents feeling confident leaving young kids, sometimes for extended periods, knowing they're safe.
That demonstrates an immense level of faith, doesn't it? Neighbors caring for these children just like their own, treating them as entrusted guests. There's this vigilance described, neighbors checking in, maybe listening for sounds at night. It's like a shared responsibility.
Yeah, for the well being of all the community's children and for the parents, that peace of mind. Wow. Knowing your kids are okay while you deal with something urgent, that must be invaluable.
Absolutely. And another cornerstone the source points to is this pervasive practice of sharing food. It goes beyond just preparing for guests. There's this constant, almost obligatory flow of food between homes.
It's even codified in that other proverb, in the food you cook, your neighbor has a right. That phrasing. It changes it from just being nice to being like a fundamental part of the community's social contract.
It's an expectation, not really an option. And the source lists specific examples, things like upkehisip, kachurisi, kawamantisi. These are traditional dishes, often quite special.
Sule, yum done.
Right.
Yeah.
And it notes these special or rare dishes are especially shared with neighbors on all sides. It's not just about handing out food, it's about inclusion, making sure everyone shares in the good stuff. It reflects that other saying too, perhaps. When your neighbor comes to share a meal, let your face show no difference, just pure warmth and hospitality.
This level of daily interdependence, it requires both giving and receiving without holding back. It suggests a really profound lack of suspicion, doesn't it, at the community level?
Exactly. Which makes another proverb quite relevant here, the one that goes, be cautious yourself, but don't assume your neighbor is a thief. It implies, be sensible personally, but assume trustworthiness in your immediate community.
That trust and that immediate support, it really extends dramatically in times of illness. The source describes this immediate rush to help if someone gets sick, particularly women or children.
Yeah, regardless of how busy they are, neighbors apparently just drop everything. They help get people to the hospital, prepare necessities, bring food every day. If someone's bedridden, check on the kids.
And even visiting someone in the hospital involves real effort traveling, sometimes long distances, and consciously avoiding any negative talk about the person's condition. It's comprehensive, practical, but also really sensitive care. The illness becomes a community concern.
The source also highlights a simpler kind of daily aspect of this connection, checking in when a neighbor isn't seen.
Right. If someone you usually see every day is just absent for a day or two, people worry. They ask around.
They might even enter the home to check if everything's okay. And the homeowner's response, if they return or are found, it's this warm welcome, treating the concerned neighbor like an important guest, offering comfort, hospitality, showing gratitude for that worry.
That really brings that other saying to life. When you wake up in the morning, check on your neighbor. It's just part of the daily rhythm, isn't it? A baseline of care.
It definitely contrasts with, say, more individualistic societies, where you might notice someone's absence but maybe hesitate to intervene directly. It shows how deeply interwoven their daily lives are. It makes you wonder, what does that level of constant connection require from you as an individual?
And this woven fabric, this community strength, it holds incredibly strong during big life events, weddings, losses. The source says neighbors treat these events like they're their own families.
They get involved right from the start, handing out invitations, cleaning yards, not just the host yard, but their own too, to make the whole area look good, helping with tasks, lending things,
Even opening their own homes to put up guests if needed. That's amazing.
providing food, drinks, and sticking around afterwards to help the family get back on their feet. It's described as this uh, admirable and praiseworthy custom, a complete mobilization of community support.
And that unwavering support also extends to other difficult times like misfortune or travel, which the source touches on.
Yeah, if someone suffers a misfortune or has to travel far, maybe for a burial, neighbors go with them. They offer prayers, condolences.
They help out after the funeral rituals, like transporting belongings. And crucially for the grieving family, neighbors make sure they're fed. Different neighbors bring food daily until the family can cope again.
And similarly, for long journeys, neighbors see people off with food, supplies, good wishes. And when they return, they're welcomed back specially, visited, invited over. It's all about maintaining that connection through life's ups and downs.
What's really remarkable, I think, is that this deep connection doesn't just vanish if someone moves away. The source notes neighbors help them pack, see them off.
But significantly, they keep visiting. They maintain contact.
So out of sight really doesn't mean out of heart in this context. They make a conscious effort, inviting each other to gatherings, actively nurturing that bond, even across distance.
It takes real intentionality. And this community harmony even shapes how they handle conflict, specifically when kids get into fights. The source describes a particular approach.
Right. Parents apparently avoid overreacting. Even if a child gets hurt, they handle it calmly, help them recover.
And the other family expresses regret, helps with care. Both sides check in daily and actively encourage the kids to make up, focusing on healing and restoring harmony, not just between the children, but between the families too.
And powerfully, the source makes a point of saying this deep neighborly relationship holds true regardless of ethnic background or country of origin.
Which highlights a core principle, an absence of discrimination or chauvinism. It mentions respecting minority customs, being mindful in interactions. It suggests inclusivity is really foundational to this specific type of neighborly bond.
What's also fascinating is how this mutual aid isn't just for crises. It's woven into the regular rhythm of life and work.
The source gives examples like neighbors helping each other bake bread in the tandoor, that's the traditional clay oven. They share techniques, bake for those who maybe can't, exchange bread regularly.
And it's especially strong during harvest and planting seasons. Tending fields, irrigating, sowing, reaping. They work together on one family's tasks, then move to the next. It's a collective effort.
Yeah, making sure no one gets left behind. That cooperation isn't just practical. It seems essential for the community's cohesion, binding them through shared work and shared success.
And this unity is beautifully reflected in holiday traditions, too. The source details specific customs involving neighbors.
Visiting graves together, reciting prayers at the closest neighbors' homes first, gathering as a group to visit other homes for blessings, visiting elders, congratulating children, giving treats.
And sitting together respectfully in public gatherings, these shared rituals just reinforce that neighborly connection, making it cultural, maybe even spiritual, not just practical.
And finally, the source addresses support for those facing hard times, poverty, vulnerability. Help is offered quickly, both material and emotional support.
What's really striking is the note about not humiliating people who need to borrow, and the kindness shown to the poor, the orphaned, the vulnerable.
It even extends to helping arrange marriages for those who can't afford it, or assisting homeless people with building shelter. It's comprehensive care.
This whole picture, it just paints this vibrant, deeply interconnected community where mutual support, trust, emotional closeness, shared responsibility, they aren't just nice ideas, they're lived realities, guided by principles like a nearby neighbor is better than a distant relative.
It really shows how profoundly this culture seems to enrich village life and sustain these core human values through active daily interdependence.
Yeah, this deep dive has certainly shown us a culture where that connection between neighbors is absolutely fundamental, resilient, and, well, deeply caring.
So, thinking about all these ways Uyghur neighbors rely on and care for each other, as described in this source, what do you think is the most essential ingredient for building that kind of strong, resilient community? Is it the deep trust, the shared vulnerability, the sort of codified mutual aid, or maybe something else entirely woven through it all?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.